Hello, Jim Callback here, the author of the Jobs to be Done playbook and co-founder of the Jobs to be Done toolkit. We are happy to announce an updated version of the Jobs to be Done canvas. We continue to learn from the field as Jobs to be Done becomes more popular through our courses, through our interactions with you online, and a lot of what we learned is reflected in this version. A couple of things have been updated. First of all, we're calling this the hypothesis canvas. We wanted to make clear that the canvas is used early on when you're scoping your Jobs to be Done landscape to facilitate a conversation with your team. The canvas format is open. You can add sticky notes to it in any order. You can delete them and try them in different arrangements. You can even try multiple canvases side by side. It is really a collaboration tool to help get agreement about your unit of analysis, which is the focus job. It is not necessarily a data collection tool or intended to be used for a full analysis. It really is a scoping mechanism. That's why we call it the Jobs to be Done hypothesis canvas. The next step in discovery would be to go out and do research and analyze that, right? So this is used up front with your team to scope your focus job. And you'll notice up in the upper left-hand corner, we added the word hypothesis because anything you do here will really be a hypothesis that needs to be validated. The other thing we did is we added a triangle at the top of the canvas to reflect the job's hierarchy. Anytime you're dealing with human goals, there will be a hierarchy involved. You can take any goal and ask why and go up from there. And you can take any goal and go down from there and ask how. So we wanted to help people navigate that hierarchy with the addition of the triangle. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. Finally, there were some label changes. We changed the target job, which is what we used to call it, to focus job. We also changed outcomes to success criteria, and we changed job differentiators to circumstances. These are all in response to how well people respond to those labels and comprehend them from our courses and our teaching. So we'll go over that all right now. So here's the updated version of the canvas, and I just wanted to walk through a little bit of the process on how to fill this out and how to facilitate that team discussion. First of all, at the very, very top, declare your playing field. This is the business or the domain or the area that you're working in, and try to describe this in natural terms, right? Don't necessarily use the industry defined category of business that you're in. So for instance, if you're in the field of real estate, you might describe the business you're in as buying and selling homes, right? In fact, you can ask yourself that question. What business are you in? We're in the business of buying and selling home. So whatever your area of interest or your field of play is, declare that at the top. This helps frame some of the next exercises, right? So in the field of buying and selling home, what you want to determine first is the who, the job performer. And in order to do that, we have what we call a plug-in activity. And you can see over here on the left of the canvas, we can create a stakeholder map. And what we want to do is list all of the players and actors in that domain, right? Again, do this as a team activity. So in the field of buying and selling home, there's obviously buyers and sellers, right? But there's also real estate agents, and there's lawyers, right? And this is really an exploratory activity. Again, you can open this up to everyone. Just come on in and add your sticky notes here. There are inspectors, right? Home inspectors, right? There might be moving companies. You can even put things in here like, or I'll just call it movers here. I don't want to say moving company, movers. You can even put things in here like the family and the neighbors are stakeholders, right? You'll probably have a dozen to 24 stakeholders depending on the complexity of your field. But the idea here is to get all of the who's out And you can even create a stakeholder map if you want to see the relationships between those. Now what you need to do is nominate one to be your job performer. And this should be someone who is relevant to you, that you want to create value for. That's really the key question here for this box, is who do you want to create value for? And once you do that, once you have a job performer that you can work with, you move to the other side of the canvas, and now we say, well, what are the jobs that that job performer has, right? Well, they want to secure financing, right? They want to find a dream home, right? I guess they have to decide on the search criteria if they're looking for a new home. Search criteria. They might have to renovate a home at some point in time. Renovate a home. Let's type that in here. They might have to move homes, right, later on. That's something that you have to do. And so forth and so on. Here you have to determine the location to search, right? What city or what area do you want to search in, right? And you might want to say, provide a better home life for my family. Once you list all of these jobs, again, this is the second plug-in activity. First, we listed all the people, nominated one as the job performer. Now we can look at what are all the things that they're trying to get done within that field of play. Now we can come back over to the canvas, and this is where that triangle comes in to play. What we can do is we can say, what do we want to nominate as the focus job? And let's just say, for the sake of argument, that we want to focus really on the shopping experience, the shopping aspect of it, right? Not necessarily financing or moving or renovating, but for us right now, it's relevant to focus on that. So determining the focus job is really the overlap between what's important for the people that you want to create value for and what's strategically relevant for you right now. Right? So you do have to think about yourself and your organization and where you're trying to grow and where you're trying to move. The focus job should fill that gap. It's not random. It's not made up. You don't necessarily just brainstorm this and decide on one in a vacuum. This should be something that meets those two criteria: relevant for the people you want to serve and relevant to your organization. That means you could go out and talk to some people. Right? This activity doesn't have to happen in a vacuum. You could go out and talk to some existing customers. You can talk to some prospective home buyers about shopping for a new home and ask them what their job is, right? But again, this canvas is really a team activity so that the team understands this decision and you co-create the answers here. You can bring in that feedback from the field if you need to. So now we have buyers. That's who we want to create value for, and this is where we want to create value. All of these other jobs then, so secure financing, I'm going to call that a related job. The related jobs are other functional jobs that we're not going to focus on right now. The focus job is what our attention is going to be centered around. There are other jobs that are not necessarily more or less important, but we're just not focusing on them right now, right? Finding a dream home is what we call an aspiration, right? That's higher than the focus job, and it's ongoing. There's many ways to do that. There's many ways to solve for that. Renovate a home, I'm going to put that into the related jobs bucket. Same with move home. Now, determine search location. That's actually something I do within this focus job, but it's something that's going to be smaller. So we can use this job step space here as kind of the bottom of the pyramid there to help us think about these levels of abstraction, right? If the focus job is our anchor and we go up from there, we have the aspirations. If we go down from there, we have what are called job steps. Over to the side are the related jobs. Right? Provide a better home life for my family is going to be one of those aspirations. And decide on search criteria, that's going to be a smaller job, right? So if I just zoom out here for a second, what we did was we declared the area, the playing field that we're in. We talked about the who, the actors that are involved, nominated one of those as the job performer. Once we do that, we can think about what are all the jobs they have in that domain. And then anchored around a focus job, relative to that focus job, think about the aspirations going up, the job steps going down, and the related jobs, which are other functional jobs the job performer is trying to get done at about the same level of granularity as the focus on, but those are ones that we're not going to focus on right now, right? Once you do that, you have your focus job, and you'll notice that the canvas has this dark border here and a big circle or half circle around the focus job. That is your unit of analysis. Everything else is in relationship to that focus job. And notice your focus job also has nothing to do with your solution or your offering, right? It's independent of any technology, and everything else that you do is independent of solutions or technology, but it's in relation to that focus job. So if somebody says, yeah, but what about if they're securing financing, moving homes? You can say, yes, that's over there. We'll look at that later. Right now, we're just hyper-focused on this focus job. And there are 4 elements that we want to understand: the job steps, the success criteria, the emotions, and the circumstances. Now, you can also bring some of your own knowledge and your team's knowledge to the table and create a hypothesis around each one of those 4 categories of information. What are the job steps that have to happen in order to execute that focus job? You can also go and consult Gen AI. A tool like ChatGPT can help you generate a hypothesis job map. Same with the success criteria, the emotions, and the circumstances. You can try to gather those using your own knowledge, existing sources of data, and or Gen AI to help fill this out. Again, this is not a complete analysis. We're just filling this out in advance of research so that we can look at whether that's the appropriate focus job or not, right? Is it too big? Is it too small? Is this the right formulation of it? And by coming up with a hypothesis with these elements, that helps us really bulletproof or future-proof that focus job. But we need to validate anything we put on the canvas. We need to validate that with more in-depth research. That's why we call it the hypothesis canvas, because we're going to go out into the field and talk to people, and we're going to use Gen AI to help us validate this, and then we'll do the analysis. Again, the Jobs to be Done canvas is not necessarily an analysis tool. It's really a conversational and a collaboration tool to help you and your team understand what the focus job is going to be, who you're going to talk to, and what you're going to talk to them about, right? Those are the 2 big outcomes of this hypothesis, is the job performer and the focus job. You want to explore those other elements, though, so that you're a more informed researcher when you go out into the field, right? And if you have multiple job performers that you want to consider, let's say you want to also think about sellers, you can do another one of these in parallel. It doesn't take a lot of effort to do that, this type of conversation and exploration. And in fact, we recommend it because very often if someone says, yeah, I think I have a different hunch on who we should go after, you can fill out the canvas and then compare them. And very often what you'll find is, oh, that direction, it was a hunch, but that was a bad hunch. Let's come back over here, for instance. So this is a very exploratory conversational tool that you can use to help align your team around that all-important focus job.